Hey guys, my name's Tomato Anus, the Airbud of speedrunning, and this is an any% speedrun of Fallout New Vegas. Recently, the biggest discovery in New Vegas in over 3 years occurred, which has allowed for about 90 seconds to be saved in the run. Before we get into it though, let me preface this with I won't be going full in-depth on all the strats and tricks used in this run. There just isn't enough time for that with how the run is now, plus I've done a few New Vegas heavy commentaries recently that explain most things. If you've never seen a New Vegas run before, I recommend you watch my video covering the run before this discovery was made. Link should be in the top right corner now and also in the description. Speaking of the description, there's also a link to this run with just game audio there, if you prefer to watch without my incessant blabbering. There isn't a version of this run with original audio for my stream, because I got this run in an offline session when I was doing a couple runs before heading off to work. With all that out of the way, as I said before, this is an any% run. That means that glitches and exploits are allowed, while console commands are not. If you would prefer to watch a glitchless run, there's a link in the description to the current glitchless world record by a carry-on. The run begins, as always, in the Italian Doc Mitchell's house. When it came to special stats before, we would always lower our strength to 1 and perception to 4 in order to be able to bring both our endurance and charisma up to 10. The new glitch that you'll be seeing in a moment requires us to cripple our legs with an explosion. In New Vegas, each of your limbs have an individual health bar, which has a maximum value that is a set percent of your maximum HP. If you have a lower max HP, then naturally your limbs will have a lower max HP as well. If we kept our endurance at 10 like we used to in the run, then the max HP for our legs would be so high that an explosion might not cripple them. Because of this, we just keep our endurance at 5 and max charisma alone. You may have noticed that at the start of the run, I had 2 DLC pop-ups instead of just the typical one for the Caravan pack. The second pop-up was for the Mercenary pack, which has the Mercenary's grenade rifle in it. If you're of an average intelligence, you may have put 2 and 2 together and realized that this is what we'll be using to cause the explosion that will cripple our legs for the glitch. We could just tag the explosive skill and start the game with dynamite, but the glitch requires precise timing and the grenade launcher allows for us to easily time it right. The second thing that we need to perform the glitch is the 357 revolver. Chet refused to sell us the gun, so we had to resort to turning his head into chunky marinara sauce, seeing as the game is in Italian and all. With Chet dead, we manifest Destiny the gun and ammo off his body, and then head outside to perform the glitch. That's right, the glitch that I've avoided mentioning the name of is what we have dubbed the Infinite Dash. Never before has the Mojave Wasteland been such a tourist destination now that you can become a fighter jet here. I'll explain how it works in a moment, but first let me explain 2 things. First is that I'm sorry for all the loading screens. It's required to quick save quick load every second or so to keep the glitch going, and I understand that it can be hard to watch. The glitch is only used for a couple minutes, and if you find it hard to watch, feel free to close your eyes and I'll let you know when it's over and you can open them again. The second thing to explain is what my goal is now that I'm a plane. Typically in a New Vegas run, we have to go to several isolated locations in the wasteland to meet various tribes. This was done by fast traveling to a nearby location and then reload dashing all the way to the tribe. Instead, we perform an infinite dash at the very beginning of the run and proceed to discover each tribe location that we would typically have to reload dash to. This cuts out the long reload dashing segments to meet the Great Khans at the Red Rock Canyon and the Boomers at Nellis Air Force Base. It also allows for us to discover the El Dorado substation directly instead of discovering Black Mountain and reload dashing over later on. Pretty much, we take any part from later in the game that would require multiple reload dashes and do them now with an infinite dash. My end goal right now is to make it to Nellis and meet the Boomers now, bypassing having to meet them later. Unfortunately, we can't actually meet the Khans now like we do with the Boomers because the trigger box in the canyon to meet them only becomes active when we have the quest after we speak with Yes Man. That being said, once we've discovered all necessary locations and meet the Boomers, I'll fast travel to the Aerotech Office Park, which is the location I've discovered while infinite dashing. From there, I'll do 2 reload dashes to board the monorail, enter the strip, and begin the part of the run that you're probably more familiar with. If you still have your eyes closed, I've just now landed at Nellis and you can open them again. That is, if you haven't fallen asleep to the sound of my nasally Chicago accent. Now that we're beginning to enter familiar territory again, let's talk more in depth about infinite dashing, how it's done, and how it was found. Infinite dashing is done by beginning to perform a reload dash up to the point where we pull up our Pip-Boy. Instead of unequipping our gun though, we just put our Pip-Boy back down. This is then followed by quick saving and quick loading, with us crippling our legs at the same time as us quick loading. Yep, New Vegas pretty much has speed cripple in it again. Luckily, the timing for doing this with an explosion is pretty lenient compared to doing it by running off a cliff like in the any% run of Fallout 3. The timing for the quick load is made even easier with the grenade launcher. Firing the grenade launcher straight up into the air gives you just enough time to perform all the necessary actions, wherein doing so quickly will perfectly time out the glitch. The reason why we have to quick save quick load so much is twofold. The first reason is that the glitch stops working if you begin to lose altitude and enter a falling animation. By spamming quick save quick load while in the air, it continually resets our vertical velocity, allowing for us to continue to dash without falling or stopping. The second reason why we have to quick save quick load so much is that if we didn't, the game would surely crash. New Vegas, as well as all other Gamebryo and Creation Kit games, have a hard time loading a lot at once. If you travel across the overworld quickly, the game won't be able to keep up and will just stop functioning. Having said that, quick saving and quick loading does not fix all crashes with this glitch. I'd say about 40 to 50% of runs I attempted with this glitch ended with a crash on the initial infinite dash. Now, the fact that losing altitude causes for us to lose the dash kinda sucks. We have a lot of locations to discover, and some of them have pretty low triggers for discovering the fast travel location. That's why with some locations, namely Red Rock Canyon and El Dorado Substation, we tried to avoid bumping into as many objects along the way to keep our altitude low. If we do accidentally get launched into the air, we can either just continue to dash in circles or we can pull up our Pip-Boy. As you dash, you gradually lose altitude, but at a rate that doesn't end the dash. By just continually flying around, we'll eventually lower far enough down to discover the locations. The other method, pulling up our Pip-Boy, is a lot more risky than just stalling. While flying, you can pull up your Pip-Boy, which drops your height by a sizable amount. The only issue is that after you put your Pip-Boy away, you have to spam quick save quick load to get the dash going again, and it doesn't always work. Sometimes your dash will just stop. Speaking of stopping your dash, you may be asking, how do I stop when I decide it's time to stop? Well, that's simple. Just stop holding W. Doing so will just cause you to fall and for the dash to stop. You want to know what doesn't stop your dash though? Fast traveling and saving/loading. The fact that you can fast travel while having infinite dash is how we got back to Goodsprings from Red Rock Canyon without losing the dash. All you have to do is make sure that you're slammed against a rock or a slope though when you pull up your Pip-Boy. Otherwise, you'll lose height and therefore the dash, or you won't be able to fast travel since you're not on something the game considers to be ground. As I said a moment ago, saving and loading doesn't stop your infinite dash. By this I mean that if you have the dash and then make a save, you can then load that save at any time and you'll still have the dash. However, if you have infinite dash and load an old save where you didn't have it, then when you load in, you won't have the dash. The dash only works when loading a save where you had it, and not the other way around. With that being said, there's a download link in the description to a setup save that has infinite dash upon leaving Chet's store in Goodsprings. If you play New Vegas on PC, feel free to download the save and try it out for yourself. All you have to do is download the save file and drag it into your New Vegas saves folder. When you load the save, just make sure you're holding W and don't stop holding it. That's the only trick to doing the glitch. Infinite dashing was initially discovered by a runner named Elias. Elias was doing a bingo run of New Vegas when he got launched high into the air. While he was falling, he began to reload dash and pulled up his Pip-Boy. Remembering you can't reload dash while falling, he put his Pip-Boy away and quick save quick loaded to break his momentum and survive the fall. The timing on the quick load was perfect and he performed the first known infinite dash. Well, it wasn't necessarily infinite since he just got launched into the air and fell shortly after, losing the dash. This was on June 3rd, 2019, and the New Vegas speedrunning community quickly got to work. Within half an hour of Elias's initial messages explaining how he achieved the glitch and a video of it, a primarily Fallout 4 runner named Gingenia was able to reproduce the glitch. It was quickly noted by both Elias and Concobra that the glitch will continue infinitely as long as you stay grounded. Elias also noted shortly after how the glitch is stored through saves. It was later in the day when current world record holder Shero discovered that quick saving and quick loading in the air will continually chain the dash over and over. At this time, our only setup for the glitch was launching ourselves into the air off a rock with a reload dash and then manually timing out the setup and quick load. Runners began testing to try a theoretical dash from Goodsprings all the way to the monorail. Both myself and Shero were able to successfully complete this trek by the start of day 2 with the glitch, but you would know that if you followed me on Twitter when I shared a video of it. Later on in day 2, Concobra was able to get an infinite dash that took him from near the hidden valley all the way up to Nellis and then back towards the strip before his game crashed. The glitch certainly was fun, but the idea of grinding for a good launch early in the run, followed by trying to get a hard glitch, further followed by inconsistent crashing, certainly didn't sound like a fun way to run the game. That was until our Lord and Savior Brongle discovered the grenade launcher setup we use in the run now. Near this time, Concobra found the dynamite setup, which is rather consistent, but ultimately we gravitated towards using the grenade launcher since it's just slightly easier to use. After Brongle discovered the grenade launcher setup on day 2, we were able to get much more practice with the glitch and increase our volume of attempts at the run. By the end of day 2, we had ironed out the details of the route as it is now, and within 72 hours of the glitch being found, Shero was able to lower his world record from 12:17 to 11:31. At the time of this recording, he has lowered the world record to 10:59, becoming the first person to finish New Vegas in under 11 minutes. We believe that the best possible run a human can get right now is somewhere around 10:40, and Shero has set his goal for under 10:50. Concobra has also been doing runs with infinite dashing, and is setting his sights on a time near Shero's as well, since those two are far and above the best runners of the game. As of right now, the three of us are the only ones to complete a full run with infinite dashing, and I have to say, I'm pretty fond of the glitch. Sure, the crashing sucks, but overall, it's a pretty fun feeling flying around the Mojave and imagining the denizens panicking as they see a body zip around. Overall though, that's about all there is to infinite dashing. We do actually do it one more time in this run though. When we arrive at Hoover Dam in a moment, instead of reload dashing along the whole length of the dam, we instead just perform one infinite dash and fly the whole way. Other than that, there isn't much else to say about infinite dashing. Oh, one thing is that if you're going to do this glitch, and you successfully fast travel without losing height, but when you load in you aren't dashing, just let go of W for a second and then hold it again. That should restore the dash. And if you're actually going to trigger the dash yourself with a grenade launcher or whatever, and when you perform it and initially quick load you aren't moving, despite holding W, just jump once and the dash will begin. You can see me do this at the beginning of my run when I initially get the dash. With that being said, I don't have much else to say about the run or the glitch, so I hope you enjoy watching this run come to a close. This was an any percent run of Fallout New Vegas with infinite dashing. I've been Tomato Anus, and I hope you have an above average day.
Un inviato. La tua debolezza. Caesar è in... Immagino che non sia un...
Hai fatto un super lavoro.
E così il corriere che aveva imbrogliato la morte al cimitero fuori da Goodsprings aveva beffato la morte ancora una volta, cambiando per sempre la zona contaminata del Mojave. Il corriere, con l'aiuto di Yes Man, scacciò sia la Legione sia la RNC da Hoover Dam, assicurando l'indipendenza di New Vegas da entrambe le fazioni. Con il Signor House fuori gioco, i Securitron rimasti sulla strip stentavano a mantenere l'ordine. Le strade erano in preda all'anarchia. Quando si estinsero gli incendi, New Vegas rimase